Hello and welcome to Change Your Love Story to Change Your Love Life. As people are still making their way into the room, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where in the world you're watching from today. Please let me know as well if you're able to hear me clearly. I want to make sure that we're able to hear before we get too far along into our session. Thank you for joining us. And if you're new to my community, I want to extend a very warm welcome to you. I'm Jennifer Zundel, a certified Calling in the One coach and author of the book, Dear Beloved, Manifesting Love Journal, The Daily Practices to Attract Your Soulmate. I support singles to release the inner obstacles that have been keeping love away so that you can finally call in the love that you're meant to have. Calling in the One is a transformational process created by my mentor, Catherine Woodward Thomas, and it's already helped hundreds of thousands of people around the world to create powerful breakthroughs in love. I'm deeply honored to now guide others through this work, including you, as you open to the true possibility to create the love that you desire. I'd like to ask that you be generous with yourself and with me today. There's so much that I want to share with you, and I want to make sure that we have time for your questions. So plan to stay on for about 75 minutes, which is a little bit longer than you may have planned for. But this way we'll have time for Q&A at the end. And I do come to check and make sure that you're able to hear me. Do let me know in the comments. Welcome to those that are putting your introductions in the chat. You might also want to grab pen and paper, as you're probably going to want to take some notes. And so let's take a minute here to really arrive together by taking a deep breath, settling in for the conversation. And I invite you to turn off distractions, silence your phones, close other windows on your computer, and let go of multitasking because your love life matters, your heart matters, and this time is for you. And so you're here because something in you still believes in love, even if you've been disappointed or had your hopes dashed in the past. And that desire for love is where the transformation starts. So let's take a minute here and check in. And you might even close your eyes for a minute and check in with your heart right now. What would it mean for you to truly have love in your life this year? It might mean waking up next to someone who adores you and shares your values. It might mean feeling safe, chosen, and cherished, not just sometimes, but consistently. It might mean creating a relationship with someone that really inspires you and inspires the people around you, showing your friends, your family, and your children what truly happy, healthy love looks like. So you having love really matters. And that's what we're here for today. Today, we're going to talk about something truly life-changing, how to transform your love story so you can finally attract and keep the love that you desire. Because if you're like most singles I support, there's a part of you that deeply desires a healthy, committed, loving partnership, but there may also be something that's in the way from allowing that to happen. And often what's in the way isn't something external out there. Rather, it's something internal, an internal block in the form of an unconscious story that you've been living inside of. A story about why love hasn't worked out. A story you've been telling yourself about what's possible or not possible for you in having love. And so let me ask you this. Have you ever caught yourself thinking something like, I guess love just isn't meant for me, or maybe I'm too much, or not enough? If something like that has crossed your mind, go ahead and drop a yes in the chat and just know that you're not alone in having those kinds of thoughts. And here's the thing, when you live inside of a limiting story, your love life will continue to reflect that. So no matter how much you might want something different, the reality is that you can write a new story, but as long as you're in the false story, you're going to create more of that. And so when you change the love story, that's when your love life begins to change too. So today I want to walk you through how that can happen. Let's explore for a minute what I mean by your love story and why it matters and how it's being created through your reality. And I'll share with you how you can begin identifying the story you've been living inside of, even if you're not totally sure yet what it is, or even if you think maybe you don't have a story, that's fine. We're going to look at a few real life examples of people who have changed their stories and gone on to create the love that they previously thought they would never have. And then I'll invite you to reflect on your own story and what new story wants to emerge from you to create the love that you want. I'm also going to be sharing with you about an upcoming opportunity to go deeper with me through my upcoming 8-week Calling in the One group coaching program. We start next week, and that program is transformational. It's a transformational process that can support you in clearing out the inner love blocks to love so that you can finally manifest the relationship that you're meant to have. For those who stay on until the end of our call this evening, I'll be sharing a special gift with you. It's a resource to help you start shifting your love story right away. And finally, we'll be ending our time together today as I open up the conversation for some Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions at any time during the call, go ahead and put them in the chat. And during the Q&A section, I'll scroll back and answer as many as I can. Does that sound good? All right. So let's begin by talking about what I'm calling your love story. This is often the internal narrative, often unconscious, which is why I said you might not even realize the story you have. It's often unconscious, but yet you've been living inside of this story as it comes to having love. And it's been shaping your relationships and your experiences in love. It's been really shaping your experiences through the ways that you've been hurt, disappointed, or made to feel like maybe love wasn't safe or lasting or even possible for you. And whether you're fully aware of it or not, this story has likely been quietly influencing your love life for years. It shows up in the thoughts that you have, particularly in moments when you're triggered, doubtful, or anxious about your relationships, moments when you're disappointed about your relationships. And so these thoughts in those moments when you're feeling disappointed or triggered, the thoughts that you might have might sound something like, I guess love just isn't for me. Or maybe all the good ones are taken. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I just live in the wrong place. And this story has most likely been sabotaging your chances at having real happy love because the unconscious internal narrative can influence the people that you're attracted to, what you tolerate or avoid in your relationships, and it can even influence your body language and the energy that you bring into a connection with someone. And so, this is how the false stories we tell ourselves then become a self-fulfilling prophecy and create our love life. So let me ask you, can you already sense that you may have a story that you've been living inside of that's been sabotaging your love life? And if something comes to mind, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can simply hold it close to your heart for now. There's no judgment here, just awareness. This conversation is really about awareness. All right. So in the Calling in the One program, it's a different conversation that we're having, different from your typical dating advice. Most dating advice focuses on external strategies for finding love, things like improving your dating profile, learning how to flirt, or have different conversations with men and women and how they can communicate better. And all of that might be helpful. But the problem is, if you've put all of your effort into transforming those areas and love still isn't happening for you, you may come to some false and painful conclusions about what's really possible for you in love. And those false assumptions are what are keeping you stuck. Because if you're carrying an inner story that says love isn't safe, or that it's too painful to risk again, or that everyone is taken that could be a good match for you, or maybe that there's no one who's a good match for you. If you're inside of those types of inner stories, then there's truly no amount of surface level effort you can put in that will actually create a change in your love life. End of story. You're giving your power away, actually, in that moment. You're giving your power away to everything around you to decide whether you have love or not. And yet, calling in the one is a different kind of conversation because rather than looking at the external situation and trying to change that, instead, what we're doing here is we're looking for the inner love blocks, the deeper patterns and beliefs that have been standing in the way from you having love. And we're not just uncovering them, we're transforming them. We go inward to the root of what you have been experiencing in your relationships. And we're looking at how you have been creating your relationships from the inside out, how your experience in your relationships have been happening to you and not how have been happening through you and not to you. I said that backwards. So here's what I want to introduce here, a powerful concept from the calling in the one process. And it's something that we call your false love identity. Your false love identity or your sense of self is something that was formed early in your life based on a misunderstanding of your worth and your value. Maybe someone didn't show up for you in a way that you really needed. Maybe love felt inconsistent or painful or conditional. Or maybe somewhere deep inside of you, you made it mean something about you, what other people were doing and how other people were showing up for you or not showing up for you. You possibly made it mean something about yourself. For example, I guess I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. I always have to work hard to be chosen. And from that place, you very likely began living inside of a story that simply isn't true. And that's what we call your false love identity. And it's not who you really are. The good news is you can begin to shift that old sense of self. You can begin to center yourself in your authentic value. And this is what we would call your true love identity. And when this happens, everything begins to change. You start to feel a new sense of worthiness, confidence, possibility. You start to feel more attractive as you're out in the world around potential partners. And that is because your energy has changed. That's the core here is your energy has changed when you're really centered in your true love identity. It changes how you walk into a room, how you hold yourself in the presence of someone you're attracted to. Centered in your true love identity, you'll naturally and with much less effort begin attracting different people, making new choices, and showing up in ways that are aligned with the love that you desire. And that's when you're what we're here to do today, right? To rewrite the story that you've been telling yourself, a story where you're no longer repeating the past, but instead you're magnetic to what you truly desire and deserve to have. That's the plot twist. We're going to write a plot twist into your love story. What would it be like if you no longer had to work so hard to prove your worth in your relationships? Just take a breath. And if anything comes to mind, feel free to share it in your chat, in the chat. What would it be like? Just imagine it. What would it be like if you no longer had to feel doubt? If you no longer had to feel like the ones that you like don't want you back, or you had to prove your worth just to be chosen? Wouldn't that feel liberating? You might actually have fun dating. You would change your love life. Let's talk for a moment here about your pattern in love. Most of us live inside of a familiar storyline when it comes to relationships, one that repeats, even when the people seem different initially. And it can feel like as you have new people coming into your life and they start to show up in the same ways that previous people had, it might feel like, here we go again. The same thing is playing out, no matter how hopeful I was at the beginning. That's your pattern in love. You meet someone new, they seem different initially, and you think this time will be different. But somehow the story ends the same way as all the others, right? This similar kind of pain and disappointment that you felt before. Can anyone here relate to that? Feeling like you're just repeating the same type of relationship over and over, even though they may initially seem different. And if so, just let us know in the chat. You are so not alone. And so how does this keep happening? Does anyone wonder that? Like you keep meeting the same type of person, just in a different body each time, right? And you think, how did it happen again? I attracted another person who cheated. I attracted another person who's unavailable, or another person who is selfish and they're just emotionally unavailable or only think about themselves. How am I just a magnet for those people? Right? And here's where we need to shift from confusion to curiosity. Let's be curious about this because it's a good question. It's a good question. How am I creating this pattern? When the same pattern repeats again and again, we really need to say to ourselves, how might I be unconsciously attracting this pattern? How am I creating it? Now, this isn't about blame. It's about empowerment. It's about freedom. Because once you see what's going on, you'll have a choice to do something different. Because if we're the common denominator in our own love story, the good news is that means we also have the key to change it. So let's get curious together. Maybe and find out what is your pattern in love. If you're aware of what your pattern in love is already, put it into the chat. I know you're not alone, no matter what your pattern in love is. I've worked with many, many singles, so I'm pretty clear on what the various types of patterns are, right? So maybe, for example, you're just always involved with emotionally unavailable people. Or maybe you're the person who's always giving more than receiving. Maybe you get ghosted a lot, or no one asks you out at all, even when you're really making an effort to put yourself out there and you really are available for love, but you're just not attracting anyone who seems like a good fit. Or maybe you attract a lot of people who are selfish and never make you a priority. Or maybe you attract a lot of narcissists, right? So let's get clear on what your pattern is, because until you're very clear on what your pattern is, it's hard to change it. And I realize sometimes people tell me various types of things. Sometimes people tell me I have all the patterns. And then there's other people that tell me I can't pinpoint a pattern because they're all different. So I understand it can be a little challenging to pinpoint what your pattern is. So for today, all I would invite you to do is look for the themes that you might see that happen the most. And so let's take a breath together because really we're just naming it here as we're starting. The patterns aren't random. They're shaped by the old beliefs and fears and the stories that we've been carrying for years, even without realizing that we've been carrying those stories. But yet, when we bring some compassionate awareness to the stories, that's the beginning of changing everything, right? So, I want to share with you a little bit about my own story because you might recognize yourself. I think that storytelling is very helpful in learning and seeing new things. So as I share, I invite you to listen not just to the words here, but listen to your heart as well and see what parts of my story feel familiar to you. What parts of my story can you resonate with? And it might not be my whole story that you resonate with. It might be parts of my story that you resonate with. So you're just looking for what resonates with you. All right. So before I found calling in the one, my love story went something like this. The men that I liked didn't even seem to notice me. The ones that I was attracted to didn't notice me. And I felt like I was a magnet for the men I wasn't interested in. And if by chance I got involved with someone I actually did like, and we started seeing each other, I would panic and I would end the relationship. Even though I didn't want to, I would just panic. And I know that that might sound really confusing because why would I break up with someone that I liked, right? I get it. I was confused too, because after the relationship was over, I would feel devastated and confused about what had happened. And clearly, I knew that I was the one who created it because I was the one who broke up with them. But really, at the time when I was in the middle of that experience, it truly, honestly felt like something inside of me took over and was in charge of my body more than my mind was in charge. What it was is fear took over. The fear was stronger than my desire to stay in a relationship. Something in my body was driving this these actions and these choices to break up, not my logical, conscious mind. Because although I really wanted this relationship, there was something in me that was very scared about the relationship. Right. And yet, even though I knew that I was the one who was creating this dynamic, I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't know how to stop it, and I didn't know how to change it. And you can imagine after repeating that experience many times, that's pretty difficult, pretty painful. And it wasn't until I found Calling in the One that I began to understand what was really happening. So it wasn't that I was sabotaging myself on purpose. I had simply internalized a false love identity, a false sense of self, one that had really taken root deep in my body and deep in my sense of self. And that's what I want you to start to see for yourself today and see what you might see about your own beliefs that you have, that you're caring about love, right? Because they don't live in our mind. As I said, this was my body that was driving me to break up with these men. And so really this false love identity is affecting our energy and our nervous system. And then it crystallizes into a false sense of self. And we start to identify who we are as a person. And we think that that's just how it is for me. That's just who I am. We say things like, I'm just shy, or I just never attract the good ones, or I'm just never the one who's chosen. Have you ever had any of these types of thoughts yourself? I'm just never that type of person that gets chosen. But these aren't just thoughts. These are stories that we're telling ourselves, woven into who we think we are, even when they're not really true. And that's why it can feel so hard to change your patterns, because even when you really want to, it just feels at your core that that's the way things are for you. And so you might try to think more positively. You might say affirmations. You might try to visualize love. But if those old beliefs are still living in your body, the deeper pattern is still alive and it will come back again and again. And so this is why you may experience that you're repeating the same patterns with person after person. And this is why in the Calling in the One program, we work at the somatic level of the body, helping you shift your energy and your emotions and the beliefs that are experiencing and shaping your love life, right? Because this is a program about creating love from the inside out by aligning with your true value and becoming someone who can receive the kind of relationship you truly want. And when you shift your inner sense of self, then your beliefs, your energy, your identity will shift as well. And you start to attract relationships and experiences that truly align with your heart and truly align with your value. So let's come back to my story, right? Because I had this experience that the men that I was interested in didn't seem to notice me. And the ones I wasn't interested in, they were the ones who were pursuing me. And so when I started the Calling in the One program, I began to look at this, at my deeper assumptions, the stories that I was telling myself in those moments where I was feeling nervous or scared about the potential of a relationship that was causing me to break up with the men. And that's when I discovered a belief that had been living inside of me. This belief was the men that I want don't want me. The men don't want me. And so in the Calling in the One program, we call this your false love identity. This belief about yourself feels true. It actually isn't, though. And inside of that story, I was acting in ways that created evidence to support the story without even realizing it, right? I didn't realize what was happening. I didn't see it because it's kind of like a fish in water. The fish doesn't know it's in water. It doesn't see the water around it because the fish just thinks this is how things are. This is how all the world is, right? But that's not really true. And so this is a blind spot that's really hard for us to see ourselves. And so that belief that men didn't want me made me deeply afraid of rejection, deeply afraid of being seen, afraid of being vulnerable. And once I began to start to see what that was causing me to do, because that's what was causing me to break up with the men before I thought they were going to break up with me. I thought they were going to break up with me, and so I might as well do it anyway, first, and save myself the pain. But in reality, it didn't save me the pain. It was a coping mechanism. See, we've learned these coping mechanisms in response to our false center, in response to the patterns that we learned when we were growing up as children. We learned how to respond to certain situations. And yet, those behavioral coping mechanisms are not helping us create happy, healthy love now. So once I began to see what was going on, I started noticing all the little things that I was doing unconsciously that were pushing away the people that I wanted to connect with. So let me give you a few examples. If I was out in the world at a party, for example, I would feel nervous that there was a man I was attracted to at the party. And so I saw my behavior. How would my behavior be influenced by the fear that a man wouldn't want me? It would cause me to not engage eye contact. I wouldn't smile at him. I wouldn't engage in conversation. My body would be closed off. I would physically turn my back on the man so that he wouldn't see me looking at him. I would even leave the room. I would physically walk out of the room just because there was an attractive man in the room. So deep down, right, I had already decided he wouldn't want me. And so that belief shaped my behavior and my energy that was then showing up disinterested to a man that I was attracted to. So of course, he wouldn't take a risk to ask me out. He, maybe not, wouldn't even have noticed me if I'd left the room, right? So how would a man that I was interested ask me out? And meanwhile, I was a magnet for the men that I wasn't interested in because I was my normal, lovely, relaxed self around those men. I was friendly, open, and funny in my full self. And that's when it really clicked, right? So when I'm centered in my true love identity, I feel worthy and safe, and who I am naturally shows up. And of course, that energy is magnetic. And of course, there are wonderful men that are reaching out to me in that energy, right? Once I saw this pattern clearly, everything began to change. So let's talk about how these false identities, false love identities are actually formed, because it's not like we wake up one day and think, I've decided that men don't want me. Right? That would be too logical of a thought, right? And again, these beliefs, they don't live in our mind, they live in our body, at the somatic energy of our body. So they're usually formed in a much earlier time in our life, in response to something painful or confusing we may have experienced as children. Often it may be in response to caregivers or something at school or early social situations. So let me share an example from my own life again. So when I was in second grade, I had a big crush on a boy in my class, and his name was Rudy. And I clearly remember Valentine's Day that year in school. And I was so excited, hoping for a Valentine from Rudy and looking forward to what it would say. So I open up his Valentine, and his Valentine says, "You are number one on my list of Valentines." Now that sounds amazing, right? But as an 8-year old, I was 8 when I was in second grade. As an 8-year old, I didn't understand abbreviations. And I read it as "you are no one on my list of Valentines," because it was written as NO period numeral one, right? So I understood "you are no one on my list of Valentines." And I was devastated. I went home sobbing, telling my mother, "He said I'm no one on his list of Valentines." And my mom gently explained, "No, no, this is an abbreviation. He meant that you're number one on his list." Now, you would think that would make me feel better again, right? But it didn't. Because here's what happened. In my mind, I didn't even tell my mom this. This all happened in my mind. In my mind, I said to myself, "Yeah, well, I'm really smart. And if I didn't know that was an abbreviation, he didn't either. And he meant you're no one." So do you see what I did here? I decided for him what he meant. I decided that he meant to reject me. I have no idea what Rudy meant. I don't know, right? Maybe he did know what an abbreviation was. Maybe someone had explained it to him, but I didn't even give him the benefit of the doubt. Instead, I interpreted what I thought he meant and I made it mean something bad about me. I assumed I wasn't wanted. And that belief then grew and grew and grew because then once we start to believe something is true, then we're going to look for more and more evidence that the thing is true. And we still do that today as adults. We fill in the blanks when we don't have all the information. And most of the time, we assume the worst. Someone doesn't text us back, or they cancel a date, or they seem distracted, and we make it mean I'm not lovable. They're losing interest. They don't want me. And yet, we're not seeing here the truth. We're seeing a story that we've decided is true. And then we play out that story over and over again, even as adults. And so this is how the false love identity is formed, and it's perpetuated, and how it then shapes our love lives unless we bring conscious awareness to it and heal it and transform it. So I want to share how I changed this false love identity, right? Because in the Calling in the One program, we have a powerful 7-step process to help you shift into your true love identity. So it's not just a matter of telling yourself something different. It's actually a 7-step process. And the part of you, that's what we want to access here. We want to access the part of you that knows that you're worthy of love, that knows without a doubt that you're worthy, wanted, and deeply lovable. And once I began to question that old belief that men didn't want me, I started to see what was actually true. My soulmate is a man who wants me with every fiber of his being. Now, that's really the definition of a soulmate in a way, isn't it? Right? And so once I was centered in that truth, not just in my mind, but when I felt it in my body, everything began to change. And I started showing up differently, right? If a man didn't give me the attention that I wanted in that moment, I didn't spiral into self-doubt. I didn't assume the worst. I gave people grace. I stayed centered in my value. And when I saw someone I was attracted to, I started making eye contact. I smiled. I started engaging conversation. I stayed present, right? So being centered in my value with men that I liked was the key, right? Not just with any man, but with the ones that I liked, right? And I started having different experiences with men. I started having men crossing the room to talk to me at parties. I found myself having fun, easy conversations and being myself with these men. And now I'm a magnet for great men everywhere I go, out in the world, not because I'm doing anything special, but because I'm aligned with my true love identity. And I have men asking me out in ordinary places, right? The grocery store, the gas station, in line at the movies, at social events. So if you're someone who tells me, like many singles do, that you don't want to do online dating, you don't have to. You can easily meet someone organically out in the world if, here's the key, if you're learning to show up from your true love identity everywhere you go. And this can change your pattern very quickly. It doesn't need to take 20 years of your life to change it. Isn't that great news? It's essential, though, that you feel the shift, not just mentally. Again, this is not just something that you're telling yourself, but you feel it in your body at the somatic, energetic level of your being, right? We also need to see how your false love identity has been influencing your actions and your choices, often in ways that were unintentionally sabotaging your chances for love. And once you connect with your true love identity, and then you'll really see how you would behave naturally very differently. You would then have new choices available to you. You'd have the ability to easily show up in new ways, take new actions, have new behaviors that are natural for someone who is actually aligned with love. So I'm curious as I'm sharing this, what are you noticing so far for yourself? What parts of your pattern in love feel familiar to you about the story I shared? Could you relate to any of that? Please let us know in the chat. And we really want to check in here. What false limiting beliefs might you hold about yourself? If you're not very, very clear on exactly the false limiting beliefs, you can't change them. It's just kind of like a big gray cloud, and you don't really know what it is to change. So we have to be very clear on what it is that we're looking to change and transform. So we have to see what are the false limiting beliefs about your worthiness to have love in your life, your false limiting beliefs about men or women and how they feel about being in relationship with you. And here is the key, okay? You won't find these beliefs when you're feeling your best. That's the part of you that already knows you're worthy of great love. So that's actually not the part of you that I'm talking to right now. Instead, you want to really look for the moments when you felt triggered or disappointed in love. And if you're not feeling triggered right now, that's okay. Obviously, I'm imagining you're not, right? But it can be harder to identify the false beliefs when you're feeling calm and centered. So maybe right now you haven't just received a text in this very minute from someone who you really care about saying that they don't want to date anymore. Maybe right now you're not sitting at a cafe with someone really attractive standing next to you and you're feeling nervous to be seen. I'm imagining those things aren't happening in this minute. And if that's true, that those things aren't happening right now, then you're probably not triggered right now. So I invite you to gently step back for a minute here into a time when you were triggered, when things didn't go as you had hoped, when you felt devastated or disappointed, when you had your heart broken. Return to one of those moments because that's when your false love identity gets activated. And it's in those moments of feeling nervous, disappointed, or reactive. Those moments, how we respond in those moments, shape how the possibility of the relationship progresses. Those are the make or break moments. When you worried about being rejected, or you feared that someone wouldn't choose you or didn't like you, that's when your false love identity shows up most clearly. So I'm curious, what do you see here? If you're willing to share, put it in the chat. If you're noticing something about your own love story, the story you've been telling yourself about your possibility for love or your false beliefs, here's the truth though, we can't change what we can't see. And so the first step is to clearly see your story. It's the first step in the 7-step process that I guide people through in the Calling in the One program. However, in the program, it's still more supported, right? Because this is really an overview type of conversation. So in the Calling in the One program, we're actually going to connect with the somatic energy of the body to let the body name that false love identity. So I do want to share with you another story here. I want to share with you Kate's story, because you might have related to my story, but maybe your story feels a little different. And it is really helpful to hear different stories so that we can find where we can apply and resonate with what these false love identities might look like. Right? So before Kate came to the Calling in the One program, she was engaged to a wonderful man. She had just met, though, a different man. She'd met Jack, right? And Jack was so charismatic that she became really enamored with Jack. And so she broke off her engagement to be with Jack. And Kate really wanted children. So she was waiting for Jack to commit so that they could get married and start the family that she longed for. But Jack kept saying that he wasn't ready. And so he postponed again and again. And then one day, Kate's doctor told her that it was too late for her to have children, that she'd missed her chance. And so she was devastated. And she went home sharing with Jack, hoping that he would be supportive. But what happened is a few months later, he broke up with her because he was finally ready for children, he said. And so within 6 months, he met and married a younger woman, and she was pregnant. And so you can imagine how Kate would have been furious here. She felt that she had wasted years waiting for Jack to commit, only to lose her chance, only to lose her chance at having children. And so she really blamed him. And so maybe you can relate to this kind of story in that kind of way. But if Kate stayed focused on Jack's faults and the ways that he was responsible for her missing out on her chance and wasting years of her life, she wouldn't have been able to change her story. Because even if it's 97% the other person's fault, really all we need to do is look at your 3% and what you contributed to the story going the way that it did and the relationship going the way that it did. That's where your power is to create a different future. And so when Kate did that, she saw she had a false belief, a false love identity. I'm never the chosen one. And that belief drove her to overfunction, overcommit, overprove her value, overdo, overgive everything. And it's what caused Jack to feel like he couldn't even commit to this woman, right? It was that belief that led her, though, that belief, I'm never the chosen one. It's what led her to think that she had to give up so much so that she might be chosen. She had to give up her dreams. She even moved across the country for a man who really wasn't fully committed to her. And so she was overgiving, entirely focused on him, waiting to be chosen. Really, she was auditioning for the role of wife. And she turned herself into a pretzel, trying to be what she thought he wanted. Yet when Kate took responsibility for her part, and she saw it very clearly what that false love identity had caused her to do, then her life began to change. She claimed her true love identity. I am deeply worthy of being chosen by a man who commits to me and makes me a priority. So, feeling this at her core, she started showing up aligned with the love that she desired. This is what allowed her to recommit to her own dreams and expect that a man that she dated would do the same. This is when everything changed for her. Kate soon met a wonderful man who did end up proposing. They did end up getting married, and together they adopted a daughter. So she did get her happily ever after. But none of this could have happened if she had stayed centered in her false love identity, if she had continued to think that it was all Jack's fault. She had to see how her false love identity had shaped her behavior and kept her stuck with Jack. If she had kept blaming Jack, she would have kept attracting men who were also like Jack, not choosing her, who she could just complain about and blame as being the reason that nothing ever worked out. So I'm wondering here, which part of Kate's story might you resonate with? Feel free to share in the chat. You're not alone, no matter what you're experiencing here. I'm sure everyone here on the call has felt some disappointment in their relationships and felt really bad when they start to see something differently, ways that they sabotaged. But the good news is you don't need to feel bad. It's like a light bulb moment when you start to see it. It's a light bulb moment when you start to see where the choice points were that you could make a different choice and do something different, right? This is the heart of the work that I do with people. And we have to start seeing very clearly what your part is in the love story that you've been living, the story that you've been telling yourself. What is that story that you've been telling yourself? What is the story that you've been telling yourself? And we want to see what false beliefs have taken root inside of you. And just as importantly, what have those false beliefs been causing you to do? What have they been causing you to do in your relationships? How have they been affecting your choices, your actions, your behaviors in ways that sabotage your chances for happy love? So let's take a minute now. And I'm curious what you might be noticing for yourself. What insights are coming up for you about your patterns in love? Please share in the chat. And your honesty is so powerful here. Vulnerability is really a superpower. That's one of the things I've learned through this work because that's where the real awareness starts to change. And I see a lot of people sharing your stories in the chat. So inspiring. I'm just going to come and briefly scan through. Remember, I'm also going to do Q&A at the end. So if I see some questions, I might come back and save those for the Q&A portion. So I see, Rachel, you're saying that you personally have been unlucky. I get it. A lot of people feel like they've been unlucky, and it's possibly feeling it's due to mental illness and being too shy. Well, I would say that it feels unfortunate that you've had that experience, and my heart goes out to you. And at the same time, there are people, no matter what your story is, who can have love. There are people who are shy that still have love. There are people with mental illness who still have love. And so we have to get beyond the story and start to open up to what's really possible here. This is what I'm talking about is get beyond the story. You're the writer, you're the author of this story, and it's time to write a new story. And some people are sharing in the moments where you feel disappointed that you don't believe that you can have love and any love other than your children's love. So that's part of your story. So, I mean, this is wonderful that you're all sharing this, right? So it sounds like you're, and I'm just naming it for you in case you're not quite seeing it yet. But I'm just mirroring back to you that this is part of your story. It's not true. That's the good news. It's not true. I know it feels true. But that's what we need to distinguish here. It feels true, but it's not true. All right. So Anne, who's calling in from a phone, so you're sharing something important here that I just want to mention here for a minute, before we move back to what I'm sharing about in the larger context. But you're sharing how you have a, a college age son, and all you have known so far is being a mom and being present for your son. And at the same time, it sounds like maybe that's a little overwhelming for your son to have you have him be your full attention. So I want to name something here that's very common for single parents. Most single parents have an inner agreement, which is a love block, by the way. And so I wasn't planning on talking about this. It's a bonus for today's session, based on the comment I saw here in the chat. But there are four love blocks that we work on in the Calling in the One program. So what I'm sharing here today primarily is about the false love identity, which is the number one important love block. And yet there are three other love blocks, and old agreements are one of those love blocks. And so, Anne, it sounds like you have an agreement with yourself that's very common for a lot of single parents. And that agreement is an idea that either I can be a good parent or I can have love, but not both. Does that resonate for you, Anne? The reality is you don't have to continue to live that agreement anymore. You can change it. So this is what I'm talking about by identifying the blocks that are keeping us from having love and actually transforming them. So you're liberated to create what you do want in your relationships, right? So I'm going to come back to what I was sharing here, and we're going to save time for Q&A at the end, and I'll continue to interact with the things that you're putting in the chat at that point. But really what we're doing here, right, while you're sharing your thoughts there in the chat, I really want to warmly invite you to something very special. I'm offering an upcoming 8-week Calling in the One group coaching program, and it's a deep, heart-centered journey where I'm going to guide you step by step through a 7-step process to transform your love identity at the somatic, energetic level of your being. And this is an intimate group of no more than 12 people. It's going to be a very small group of people. And so you're likely going to get you're going to get a lot of personal support from me, one-on-one support from me, because there's space. Since the group is going to be so small, you're going to have space to share, ask your questions, receive live coaching from me on the calls throughout the program. And what you're going to discover during this program, not only the false love identity that we've been talking about here, but as I mentioned a minute ago, there are three other important love blocks that we're not even talking about today. And so really we're going to have the chance to change what's been getting in the way from you having love. Now, coming back though to the false love identity, in the Calling in the One program, we have identified 21 core false identities, and each one shapes your beliefs and your behaviors and your experience and your relationships in very unique ways. So it's very important that we clearly name your specific false love identity. And it's going to be specific and different for everyone here on the call. And you're going to be able to see clearly how it's been sabotaging and running your love life, and then how to shift into your true love identity. And although this is a group program, you're going to be amazed at how personal it feels for you. Now, I mentioned that there's 21 core false identities. I'm just going to give you some examples. For example, I'm not safe in love. I'm always going to be alone. I'm not enough for love. I'm not lovable. I'm not wanted. I'm invisible. I'm not worthy. I'm not valuable. Now, although these may sound similar, each one is actually very unique. And each one of these creates different behaviors and different patterns in your love life. And so this is why it's so important to really name yours clearly, because we're going to see how it's been actually showing up for you in your behaviors and your patterns and what it's been creating in your love life. And wouldn't that be amazing if you could change this whole dynamic in the matter of a few weeks? That's what we're going to do in the program. And that's why I'm so excited, because I've never come across another program that was this powerful about transforming beliefs. You may be aware that you have some limiting beliefs, but you may be not sure what to do about them. Maybe you're trying to say affirmations, but this isn't about saying affirmations. This is about actually changing what you feel at your energetic body, right? So that you're really going to be aligned and grounded in your true love identity everywhere you go, especially in moments when you're feeling doubtful, nervous, triggered, disappointed, because as I said, those are the make or break moments. So we need to learn how to do a pattern interrupt and have a tool and process to do a pattern interrupt when you're in that type of triggered reactive space, so that you can get yourself back centered into your true love identity and respond in a way that's aligned with your value. So I'm going to be sharing with you a clear roadmap of what new choices are going to be specific to you personally to change your love life. Once we see what your false love identity is, we'll know exactly what new choices, what new actions, what new behaviors will change your love life specifically. And you're also going to learn the new essential skills that you'll need, the mindset shifts that you'll need to sustain the transformation. Now, this is not rocket science. I know it probably feels like that because you've been struggling for a while now. But many people who want love feel stuck, and they just haven't known how to change what's been going on internally. And I'm here to pull back the curtain and make this actually a simple process. It doesn't need to be complicated. It's not about luck. It's not about being lucky in love. It's not about magic happening. It's about having a clear system to transform the places that you've been stuck, right? So I'm going to help you name the false love identity clearly, understand exactly how it's been influencing your choices, and support you to claim your true love identity and map out a way for you to start showing up that feels natural and possible for you to create what you do want in your love life. Imagine what would be like if you actually knew how to do that very clearly, right? So this is the invitation to step into that possibility, right? So I want to share with you, let's see, here I hope I have, I believe I have somewhere, here it is, a link where you can go and get all of the details about how to get signed up and join us. We start next Wednesday evening at the same time that we're meeting here tonight. So you can just click on that link there that I put into the chat, and it will take you to the course sign up page. And I just want to briefly do a screen share here to show you how you can get signed up to join us. And I also want to let you know that there is a special bonus today only for those who sign up by midnight tonight. and it's called Creating a Powerful Intention to Manifest Love. And this bonus you get it right away. You don't need to wait for the program to start. You'll get it right away. And it will help you catapult your momentum in the program and towards having love, because it will help you learn the 5 keys to creating a powerful intention and how to use this intention as a manifesting tool. A lot of people don't realize that the intention itself is a manifesting tool. And so I map out the various ways to use the intention as a tool. So I'm not going to read all of this. You can come and read this. But really, this is a powerful program. Let's talk about what we're going to do in week 1. In week 1, we're going to connect as a group, and I'm going to help you identify your own past patterns in your love life and understand how they've been happening through you and not to you, so that you can start to evolve beyond those patterns. And in session 2, we're going to be talking about how to stay empowered and grounded in your vision for love, no matter what happens in your love life. So remember that I said that it's the moments when you're feeling disappointed and triggered and reactive that actually take you off path. So it's important to learn to stay on path and connected to having love. So we're going to set you up to learn how to do that. And we're going to bring in some fun manifesting practices right away here as well. Session 3 is dedicated to evolving 3 major inner love blocks that will help you release the energetic ties to your past relationships. We'll be looking at transforming toxic dynamics, releasing resentments, and discovering and letting go of old agreements in that session. Session 4 is completely dedicated to transforming your love identity and really naming it clearly. This is where I'm going to be guiding you through this 7-step process to transform the love identity, as we're going to name that love identity at the somatic, energetic level of your body, and then discover how it's been generating your patterns in your love life. I'll guide you to name the true love identity and see what the new actions and choices and behaviors would be that would be natural for you, that would easily change your love life. We're also going to be talking about growing new skills that will help you create the amazing love once you call that person into your life. Session 5 is the turning point of the program, because now we've released all of these love blocks, and we're going to have a powerful release ceremony and actually orient you towards your future self that already has love, and how you can start to activate that self of the future, again, to use that as a manifesting tool. Session 6 is really has a foundation of self-love. We really want to have that self-love as a foundation for a commitment with a partner that we're calling in. But a lot of people don't realize what self-love really is. So this is really an eye-opening session once people really get related to what self-love is. Session 7 is where you become the strongest, most healthiest version of yourself, and you begin transforming any lingering, disempowering beliefs with anyone in your life, whether that's friends, family, men or women, because all of your relationships are going to be up-leveled through this program. We're going to continue to grow new skills so that you really feel confident in your ability to navigate relationships. Our final session together is about activating your intuition to guide you to love. And again, we're going to be talking about how to stay empowered and focused, centered in your possibility for manifesting love. We're going to complete with a ritual that will welcome your beloved into your life. Our sessions take place on Wednesdays. We're meeting on Zoom. There will be recordings if you're not able to attend live, and there will be some reading and journaling in between the sessions to get the most out of our time together. I have some amazing bonuses as well. So there are 2 additional Saturday morning sessions that are 90 minutes each, and the dates of those sessions are Saturday, August 16th and September 6th. We go from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And these 2 bonus sessions are really just to make sure that you feel as supported as possible, where you come and you bring your questions about anything in the program. We also have a private Facebook group just for the program where you can interact with the other participants and ask me your questions and engage with the material further that way. So you're really getting the most out of the program. I have an additional bonus that I'm so excited about called the 4 Key Soulmate Indicators that help you stop wasting time on the wrong ones and finally recognize your soulmates. And this special training will put you on track to know who to invest your time and your heart and your energy with so that you can easily find the love that you want. And there are some testimonials from people after they had that training. And I also love this bonus. This bonus expires this Saturday, and it's called Create Your Standout Online Dating Profile, where I'm going to help you create a dating profile. And let's face it, if you have done any amount of online dating, you probably have experienced your eyes glazing over while reading dating profiles and realize that they all sound the same. So then the question becomes, if you're experiencing that as you're reading other dating profiles, it's very possible, likely, that other people are also having their eyes glaze over as they're reading yours, unfortunately. And so we have to start to question and be curious, how can you make your profile stand out in the sea of potential prospects so that your soulmate actually recognizes you and reaches out, stops in their tracks to reach out? So these are just some examples of men who responded to my dating profiles years ago when I was actively doing online dating. So, for example, men would say to me, "That was the most enjoyable about me I've read. Absolutely fantastic." Or another one said, "Hands down, the best profile I've read yet." Another one said, "I loved reading your profile. It was very refreshing in this sea of poorly written paragraphs." So some of these are really fun responses. And then client testimonials about how people's experience of online dating has changed after getting my support to change their profile. And I also have some videos of people that have worked with me. And I have many testimonials here. And I definitely want to read this one from Mary from the UK because she did the last calling in the one program. And I want to say, first of all, that she's 69 years old. All right. And I just want to share what happened for her during the 8-week program. So she says, "I heard about Jennifer's calling in the one course at just the right moment. I'm 69 years young and I was 5 years divorced, lonely, and not sure there was anyone out there who would want me. I was stuck in a rut and didn't know what to do. Jennifer helped me appreciate my worth, recognize old patterns that were holding me back, have the bounce and energy to broaden my social life and have fun again. So I've been happy, living my best life, and my soulmate has walked in with open arms." So I just want to say Mary manifested her man, the one. She seriously believes he's the one during our 8-week period together. And she's 69 years old. If she can do this and get results, you can too. And there are many other amazing testimonials here that I love as well. Diana, for example, I mean, it's so hard to pass these up because they're all amazing. Diana's boyfriend broke up with her and moved out as they were living together during COVID. And she was devastated. And that's when she came to me to get support. And she saw what she was doing to sabotage her relationships so that she could turn things around and fall in love again. And that's when she manifested her partner back. And a month later, he proposed because he saw how she had changed. Isn't that amazing? And then they went to Hawaii to get married. So again, there are so many testimonials that you can read here about people that have worked with me. I would love to have you join us right now. You can get, for a limited time, get 37% off. So you can join us for only $497, one payment, or 2 payments of $279. So you can just click either one of those payment buttons and join us. And I would love to have you be my next success story. So let's see. It is inspiring, isn't it, Anne? I love it. All right, so let's come back to what I was sharing here, right? So if you're feeling inspired, lit up, energized by what I've been sharing here, if you're feeling, yes, this might actually be possible, then I would invite you to join us. It's really affordable to join us. That's why I enjoy doing the group work, because private coaching might feel out of reach for you. And so this is a way to get some personal support at a much more affordable price than private coaching. And like I said, it's a small group. And so there's going to be a lot of space and time for you to get personal support for what's going on for you personally. We start next Wednesday, same time as we're meeting here tonight. And I remember I do have the bonus here, right? When you sign up before midnight tonight, you'll receive the special bonus training, creating a powerful intention to manifest love. And it will help you by identifying the 5 keys to creating a powerful intention. And it will support you to create a wildly inspiring intention for yourself and then use it as a manifesting tool. And you can get started with that right away, that training. You don't need to wait for next week to get started with that. There is warm-up material if you get signed up tonight, right now, right? So what you can expect if you join us, again, I said no more than 12 people, very small, and you'll receive personalized support and live coaching from me. You'll be guided through a 7-step transformational process. I'll help you identify and shift your false love identity and really get you centered in your true love identity, knowing exactly how that will affect your choices, your actions, and your behaviors. So this is very tangent, it's very concrete. It's not something abstract, right? It's not something where you're just saying affirmations and then you're like, okay, all right, right? This is actually like, what do you go out and do differently today? How do you actually go on the date and show up differently now? Right? Like very, very practical. That's what I love about this. Yes, there's a spiritual quality to it. Yes, we're actually connecting with the law of attraction and with the energies of life. Yes. And it's also very practical. And I'm results oriented. I get results. Even the creator of this program, Catherine Woodward Thomas, has said to me personally a few things. One, she has said to me, Jennifer, you are very results oriented. Yes, I would agree with that. I get results for people. Two, the second thing that Catherine has told me about me and the way I show up is she says to me, Jennifer, I love your meditation. So I want to share with you that I have a free gift. So Catherine has told me, Jennifer, I love your meditations and I would follow you anywhere for your meditations. So I want to let you know, thank you for staying on here till the end of our call because you're going to be getting a free meditation from me delivered to your email. You'll be added to my email list. And in the first email from me, you're going to get a Manifest Your Soulmate meditation, and it will help you start to live into the energy of having love now. And I look forward to having you in my community going forwards. Bye for now.